9. This debate is sponsored by Clean Elections, the state's nonpartisan voter education agency. My name is Nohelani Graff, and I'll be moderating today's debate. Thanks to a partnership with the Clean Elections Commission, the Arizona Media Association, and Bitfire Studios, we're working to make sure all 2024 debates are the most accessible in Arizona history. That means this conversation will air on a long list of local TV stations, radio stations, and digital platforms, including support from local newspapers. Our format is going to be a little different today. We're hosting a 30-minute one-on-one discussion since only one candidate has agreed to participate. Republican incumbent Paul Gosar has not accepted our invitation. Instead, we're welcoming Democratic congressional candidate Quacy Smith, who we will introduce in just a moment. Transparency is critical here, and that's why we want to let you know that this conversation has been designed with input from a broad group of journalists in Arizona representing urban and rural communities. We also want to let you know that the candidate has not been given any advanced access to any of the questions. With that, let's introduce the Democratic congressional candidate, Quacy Smith. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here with you and all of the voters that are and constituents that are watching this today. So thank you.
Well, Mr. Smith, we're going to start with a 2-minute opening statement, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. To all of you, the voters and viewers that have tuned in today, thank you for being here, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to share this moment with us. My name is Quacy Smith, and I want to say on the onset, I'm not a politician. I am an everyday American, just like you, born out and raised out in Blythe, California, which borders the 9th Congressional District of Arizona, United States Marine veteran, a former police officer, a small business owner, a rural kid at heart that now lives in the big city, also a practicing attorney, and again, practicing law in federal and state courts. I'm here today to offer a perspective, a different choice. I am an unashamed, moderate Democrat running against Paul Gosar, who is markedly an extremist and has proven himself over and over again to espouse extreme things that are not consistent with the views and values of folks that live in the 9th Congressional District of Arizona. I'm one that believes that we are at a critical point in our nation's history and in the trajectory of our politics, and we cannot defeat extremism with extremism. We have to bring folks back to the table that are willing to have conversations, meaningful conversations that can benefit the lives of everyday Americans just like you. There are things that we agree to, but we have to have the right people at the table to get those things done. I know there's a lot of talk about the presidential races, but the real policies, effects, and changes happen in the Congress. And frankly, Congress has failed you by being at a consistent and constant gridlock. Paul Gosar is at the helm of this gridlock that you have been experiencing that is affecting the price on your gas and on your groceries and on your electric bills and on policies that's related to domestic relations and international relations. And so I offer a different perspective, an opportunity to build from the middle out, to move America forward from the middle and to address the actual challenges that we face. And so I look forward to having this conversation with our moderator, and I hope that I can inspire you to consider me for voting on November 5th for the House of Representatives.
And Mr. Smith, you touched on it. You are running in the most conservative district in the state. So what do you see as the key to appealing to voters there to cross the ticket and vote for a Democrat?
I think a couple of things. Number one, first of all, being genuine. The American people are tired of being lied to, tired of having sleight of hand played with them, tired of this high-level issues being raised to them around election time, and then these same folks are the ones that go away and disappear. And when you go look at their voting records, it's completely inconsistent with what they sold to voters during election season. We've seen that with Mr. Gosar. We've seen that up and down the ballot, and may I say, frankly, on both sides of the aisle. The American people are ready to move forward with substantive change. I knew what I was getting into when I got into it. I know this is the reddest district in the state, but I believe that the soul of American people can see beyond party lines. They're not blindly voting down the ballot, Republican and Democrat anymore. People want change, and I have the type of resume, experience, and frankly, character and heart that yields to both sides, independents, Democrats, and Republicans. And I represent a new rising level of political leadership that's needed right now more than ever, Nolani.
Speaking a little bit to your life background and experience, you've lived in the Valley for some 20-odd years, but you did grow up in Blythe, California, bordering part of the district that you would represent, giving you a unique view into that area of our state. What do you see as being raised there and knowing that area as the biggest issues facing that area of the district?
Sure. I'm not a transplant candidate, as you have adequately pointed out. I'm not some guy from Mesa that's running out there because I don't have anything else to do. My mom still lives in Blythe, California, still has medical appointments in Yuma and Lake Havasu, and so I'm very well acquainted with the area. I know where Courtside is and Wickenburg and Salome and all of those places. I played sports out there, so I'm the hometown kid. The issues in that rural area out there are replete, and many of the voters that are watching today, the issues are replete, but you cannot address them in a vacuum. The issues in Maricopa County are different than the issues in Mojave and La Paz. Yuma is different from Meadview way up north. One of the major issues out there, obviously, is the water issue, and that's going to be an issue that we have to keep revisiting over and over again because of climate change and other things. And then I think the other big issue out in that area, as well as Maricopa County, is the housing issue. And of course, that's directly connected to the economic issues that we're facing, not just out there, but across the country.
Well, let's start with water then, because as you mentioned, the issues do differ when it comes to water depending on region. Down in Yuma County, it's farmers and ranchers who are depending on their supply from the Colorado River, and they've seen cuts. Higher up along in the northern part of your district, Lake Havasu City, freshwater demands for a growing population have been problematic. So what specific actions would you fight for to ensure water sustainability in Arizona?
Sure. First thing is, one, recognizing that there is an issue and an ongoing issue, addressing what we have in place right now and how to make sure that that is sustained, and then revisiting policies that brought about what we have, and then looking into the future to determine what needs to be done so that our children and grandchildren have water. One of the first things that we would look to make sure that what we have is maintained is we need to look back at the agreements amongst the states and folks that rely on the water that's coming out of the Colorado River, and make sure that the agreement is fair considering where we are now. The growth that has happened on the west side of the state in Mojave County, Yuma County, especially Maricopa County, we have to look back and revisit that. Make sure states like California aren't being wasteful. Make sure that we're not allowing countries like Saudi Arabia to come and grow their alfalfa, which requires more water than most crops go. We cannot ignore our farmers down south in the Yuma area. Migrant workers, if you're eating a salad anywhere in this country, you're welcome. Your lettuce comes from down in Yuma, and we have to make sure that these folks are getting their fair share. And I also want to make sure that we protect the tribal rights and their water rights. I think after we do that, then we come back to the table and make sure that we are increasing our underground water aquifers, expanding our ability to capture rainwater during our monsoon seasons, and to ensure that we have adequate water for the 100-year water table that we currently have in place. And then I think another specific thing that we have to have conversations about is a desalinization plant. It's time to have that conversation, because if the growth continues the way it is, specifically like in a city like Buckeye, Arizona, these water issues are only going to increase, and a 100-year water table may not be enough. But those are some of the initial steps, and this is going to take partnerships between local, county, state, and of course the federal government to get some of these things done. And
on some of the things that you mentioned, so that would include some regulations when it comes to foreign entities using water and investments for rainwater collection. That's what you're proposing. Also to what you were saying about growth. In western Maricopa County in particular, we have seen an explosion of growth, housing, industry. Do you believe that caps need to be made on expansion or other regulations when it comes to housing or industry to protect water supplies? I'll say it this way. There's an old adage out there that says it takes a lot of water to turn around a big ship, okay? And the growth that's happening on the west side of Arizona, I live out there. I've never lived any further east than Avondale, so I'm not the transplant guy.
That's a big ship right now. Every time you drive down the freeway, there's an extra lane, there's an extra building popping up. And I think our local municipalities, our governor in our great city of Buckeye, he's doing a great job with regulating the growth. But water is always a consideration that lies on that. Because again, if you're going to be building buildings, obviously it takes water, and then the consumption, potable water, you have to make sure that there's usable water. So in addressing the caps, it's going to take a conversation, a partnership between local government, the county government, the state government, and the federal government to ensure that we are keeping up with growth. You don't want to stifle growth, but you want to track growth and make sure that the infrastructure, water has to be included in that infrastructure conversation, just like freeways and broadband and electricity. We have to give more attention to the water issue, especially with where we are now on the growth curve and on the western side of Arizona.
And that also goes hand in hand with when we're talking about growth. Our summers have gotten hotter here in the valley. We have more days of high pollution advisories because of the heat. So what type of action would you take on climate to protect a healthy and livable valley as we continue to see growth and expansion? Sure.
The climate conversation is one that has been at the forefront of politics. You have folks on the extreme left, that want, the broad Green New Deal, and folks on the far right saying we don't want anything at all. Again, I'm a moderate. I think we need to find the middle of the road on it and do things that are meaningful, specific to areas. We can't broad stroke the whole issue, okay? Climate change is an issue. I know, I live here. Last week it was beautiful. Today it's so hot I thought I saw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walking across the street. I mean, it's just hot today. We don't want that kind of heat in the middle of October, but we have to do those things that are necessary in measured responses. Everybody's not ready for an electric-powered vehicle. There's not enough stations to power them. We have to make sure that as we are rolling out things to improve the economy, that we are increasing the infrastructure to keep up with them, such as electric vehicles. There are areas, like out in La Paz County, where there is a great opportunity out there for the solar land, to the solar plant out there. It would bring jobs out there, housing out there to that area, which would be good for the citizens of La Paz County. But you got to be careful not to push that on people up in the Meadview, and Golden Valley area, because they don't want a solar plant that's shoveling energy back to California, blocking their aesthetics and views of the mountains. And so, again, you have to get on the ground and have these conversations, and those conversations need to be specific to the areas, particularly in a congressional district like the 9th Congressional District, and you have to get on the ground and have those conversations.
How do you protect that, though, when you are in the House having those conversations? You know they need to be nuanced for your district, but with sweeping legislation oftentimes, how do you make sure that one is available to one area and not another? How do you protect them?
I think that's the benefit that I bring to the table as a lawyer. I've been in the field of law for quite some time, even on the enforcement side as a police officer, as a federal investigator with the EOC, albeit different areas of law, and then of course as a practicing attorney, as an active litigator. You know the fabric of the law and what it takes to carve out specific arguments. In this particular case, as you've asked the question, specific pieces of legislation that can be specific to a certain area. What you cannot be is lazy and bombastic and argumentative for the sake of your political party when you have no interest in the people or the country at large, which is what we currently have in congressional representation. We have to drill down on the issues, and that's doing the job that the American people send you to Washington to do. Stop being lazy, get with the right advisor, and write out policy that is specific and explain it to your colleagues in the House why they need to support this legislation for your district and why some broad sweeping policy will not work in District 9. You have to do the work. That's what's needed now.
Let's talk about the economy now. Sure. The Congressional Budget Office is projecting a budget deficit of $1.9 trillion for fiscal year 2024. So where do you see cuts needing to be made? Where does money need to be prioritized?
Sure. I think first of things we need to do is accountability. okay? Our current congressman, and the facts are out there for folks to go look at. Our current congressman, out of all the congressional representatives, spend far more than other congressional representatives on travel alone. In fact, the only folks that came close to him were the two representatives that fly out into the Guam area. Of the other congressional representatives in the state of Arizona, don't even pale, I think, about 40% of what he has spent. I'm pointing to that to simply say we need accountability. You know where we need immediate cuts? Let's cut back some of the garbage time that we are wasting in Congress trying to launch investigations and all of this stuff about Hunter Biden and all of this waste of time that the American people are nauseated with. Let's cut back on all of this type of stuff and put the money where it is needed. I think the next thing that they're going to have to do, and we've just seen news about this over the last couple of hours, they passed this continuing resolution. I think it's 3 months or 90 days or so. I want to be clear about this to the American people. That's cute. Yeah, the government doesn't shut down. Things keep flowing, but it's a waste of time. And these continuing resolutions are costing you, the taxpayers, money because those 400 plus representatives, ours included, won't get to the table and pass a budget. You lose money that was appropriated to other places, and you spend time churning your wheels about something because you have people that are pitted in stand your ground politics instead of getting back to common ground politics. And the only people that are impacted on a daily basis by this type of stuff is you, the voter, and you're the only person that have the check and balance to it.
And we do often see now bills that go through and get pushed through cover a wide range of things. So where do you see, if those cuts are made, where does that money go? Who do you prioritize first?
Sure. I think, first of all, I think one of the main priorities that needs to happen is we need to shift money to do what the American people are asking congressional representatives on both sides to do, and that is immigration reform. We need these cuts that we're making, we need to shift that down to, first of all, passing that border bill that was put on the table that was blocked. We need to secure the border, okay? And whatever that takes, more wall. President Trump was not wrong about that. I want to be clear about that. He was not wrong about that. Some of the things that he was trying to do, he was not wrong about some of those things. I think the bombast and bluster and rhetoric and negative talk was unnecessary. And in Congress, if he becomes president, I'll work with him in every way possible. But if he starts saying too much, I'll be the one to tell him, Mr. President, we probably don't want to talk like that, because these are, one, our citizens, and these are human beings. We don't reference people like that. But we need to put money down there to secure the border. We need more immigration judges. Do you know right now, Nolani, there are only 600 immigration judges, and there are over 2.5 million cases backed up in the system. If you were to hire 1,200 more judges at average pay for a judge, an immigration judge, about $128,000 a year, it would take $153 million to hire 1,200 more immigration judges to fill the 6 immigration courts. That's $153 million at entry-level pay. We don't have time to get caught up in all this stuff, and this border should have been secure a long time ago. In fact, my opponent, who's notably absent today, over 19 times since he's been in office, there has been an opportunity for him to side with legislation to secure that border. And 19 times, Paul Anthony Gosar has been on the wrong side of the issue. We only hear about this from him and from them, these other extremists, when it comes down to the election season, when they want your vote. They get your vote and they disappear. We need to send some money down there. We need these extra Border Patrol agents. We need walls. We need all of the infrared systems and drones and whatnot to secure the border and to have meaningful, comprehensive immigration reform.
So I just want to be clear, in addition to more Border Patrol agents and judges, you also would spend on finishing the wall?
Absolutely. As a former police officer, I worked as a police officer out in Blythe. And we had to, do joint things with other cities and stuff out there. We had a 100-mile compact back in the day. I don't know if they still have it, but there are some areas of that border that can only be reasonably secured with a wall. The former president was not wrong about that. And I think Democrats have to say it. The man wasn't wrong. He shouldn't have said it the way he said it. but he wasn't wrong about it. And let's not reject things just because we don't like the person, don't care for the person, or wouldn't vote for the person. Character matters in this election, and not just does character matter, it's does character matter to you. But if they're forwarding something that's beneficial to the people, do it. That wall, in some areas, is beneficial.
And you pointed out that this is a two-pronged issue when
Sure.
it comes to border issues and immigration. The humanitarian side, there are local resources down in Yuma County that are being taxed. Hospitals are spending on medical care for migrants. The food banks are being stretched and have been impacted as well. Some locals there that we have heard from worry that there won't be enough local resources left for them. So how do you rectify or regulate the financial impact?
Sure. I've been down there. I've been to that border, not for a photo op, to sit with folks that are actually doing the work on the ground. I've been to the Yuma Regional Medical Center, sat with the CEO and discussed it with him. And this issue, the impact of this immigration issue is not only having an impact on small cities, it's having an impact on veterans and the healthcare system. I will say this, and a lot of folks might not like it, but I think we owe these border towns, cities like Yuma, that's in my district, the federal government owes them some money and some back pay for not doing what Congress should have done a long time ago, and that is secure that border. And their healthcare systems have been impacted. Groceries and sustainability, all of those things have been impacted by that. You control that by, number one, looking at the impact that Congress's lack of action has had on those people, and give consideration to these mayors and governors that are impacted by the border issues, and make sure that we funnel funding to them so that they can replenish themselves. And that needs to be a part of the funding mechanism to make sure that they are sustainable, because we need them strong.
Let's talk about financial sustainability for everyday families as well. Even with the recent Fed cut to interest rates, it has not trickled down in a meaningful way yet to grocery prices. So what more do you see as being able to be done to ease the burden of costs that are stretching paychecks too thin for working families?
Sure. I think, again, it's a comprehensive solution, and it can be done. None of it is impossible. I'm appreciative of the progress that President Biden has made with some of the things that he has passed in his administration. But to get down to everyday folks, gas and groceries, things are higher. But we have to look at it and understand that the economy is a spectrum, okay? There are several things. There's economy as far as investing. There's economy as far as retirement. There's economy as far as home ownership. There's economy, as you have mentioned, Nolani, as far as the paycheck. How far is it going? We have to have a solution that addresses all of that. And it has to be something that we revisit on a daily basis without partisan pressure on it. My paycheck doesn't go as far as the next person's paycheck, and I may make more money than them. Eggs are higher. But we have to understand that it's not pinned down simply on the president, okay? Again, this is Congress failing to act to control these things. We've gotten, because of media and a bunch of talk, used to being ruled by executive order. These are congressional issues and legislative things that must be passed to improve everyday life. And so to do that, number one, you must address how wealth is generated. First of all, we have to take the pressure off of our seniors, and we have to pass legislation to protect Social Security and their pensions. We made these folks a promise, and we should keep it. The next thing we should do is some of the ideas that Vice President Harris has about home ownership. Wealth starts with home ownership. Too many folks, young Americans particularly, graduating college, starting families, have been priced out of the housing market. I do agree wholeheartedly with down payment assistance, capping interest rate, capping the price of rental properties, so that we don't have these folks, out-of-state folks from California and other places, buying up swaths of home and raising the prices. It's putting pressure on the mortgage industry, and these are things that local, state, and federal partners can get done to ease the pressure so that there's less interest and more of that paycheck stretches further. We need to stop price gouging. Immediately. We need to stop price gouging. The economy has been bad, but no one has really been pointing the finger at it. How do you say that the economy is so bad, but you have record profits being made by these companies? It's because Congress is not revisiting it and making sure that these major corporations aren't profiting off the backs of everyday Americans, just like you, me, and these viewers.
You spoke specifically to Social Security, and retirees are worried that Social Security won't continue to be there in the future for them. Social Security Administration says funds will run short by 2035 if Congress doesn't act. Your opponent, Paul Gosar, is part of the Republican Study Committee, and they released a proposal this year to raise the retirement age and reduce benefits for higher earners. Do you agree with that, or what actions would you take to protect the longevity of Social Security?
First of all, I want to be very clear about this. We don't play the okie doke with people. Paul Gosar is absolutely wrong. We do not reduce benefits for any American citizen that we have promised them. We have promised it to these folks. We told them that this money was going to be here. They contributed to it. We didn't ask them for that money. We took it. And we told them that these benefits would be there for them. And shame on us if we cannot secure Social Security for these folks that we made a promise to. We don't play sleight of hand with these kinds of benefits as it relates to these folks. And it's not only Social Security, it's also pensions. We have to make sure that they're not being sold down the river to private corporations. We must pass laws to protect them. And again, some of the other cuts that need to be made in other areas of government needs to be funneled secondarily into these programs so to make sure that Social Security is sustainable. I also want to say this, because my opponent has also said, and this is a lie, it's just a lie. Well, it's because the border, that's the reason why Social Security is the way it is. That is a lie. There is no nice way to say it. That is a lie. The border over the last couple of years of the Biden administration is not the reason why Social Security is in the way that it is, in the condition that it is. Social Security is in the condition that it is in because of congressmen like him have failed to protect it, and they've known this was going to be an issue for years. Congress is failing the people.
Very quickly, before we get to your closing statements, Paul Gosar has been tied to the investigation surrounding the January 6th insurrection, efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. Do you think, yes or no, that more can be done to restore American faith in the voting system?
Yes.
Yes.
You want me to explain that? Yeah. Well, let me say this
if you've
briefly.
got 1 point, very briefly.
So the number one way you can secure the election system and secure it more so in the United States of America is on November the 5th, 2024, send Paul Gosar home. Because in the state of Arizona, there was only one of our 9 congressmen that stood up on the floor of the House of Representatives without one scintilla of evidence and told them not count the votes of more than 3.4 million Arizonans. There is no greater breach of duty.
I appreciate all of your comments here, and I want to make sure you have time for this final 1-minute closing thought.
Thank you all for listening today. As you can tell by some of the things that I've said today, I want to go to Congress. I want to be bipartisan. And I think for this election, I am the better choice. I'm the better choice for the independent. I'm the better choice for the Democrat. I'm the better choice for the Republican. We, you and I, the citizens, are the checks and balances to our congressmen. They're not going to police themselves. And what I'm asking you for is for the next 2 years, an opportunity, whether you're Republican or not. You may have never voted for a Democrat in your life. I am unashamedly a moderate. I haven't accepted any money from the Democratic Party. This has been a voter-funded campaign from folks just like you. And there is a better choice. We can move this country forward, but we have to send the right people to Washington. And this is our opportunity to do so, to make sure that this country is continuing to be the great country that it is for generations to come. So thank you for listening to me today. And please make sure you get out and vote November the 5th. Thank you.
We do appreciate your time for being here. The conversation goes quickly, and so that is all the time we have, but we appreciate your time. Today's debate for Congressional District 9, once again, with Democratic candidate Quacy Smith. On behalf of our partners at Clean Elections and the Arizona Media Association, Reister and Bitfire Studios, thank you. We're clear. It goes real fast. Sorry.